Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Option Pit Live. It's Licia Leslie this morning, your queen of the candlesticks, as Mark would say. Unfortunately, Mark won't join us, but Andrew will be with us shortly. How's everyone doing today? TGIF, woohoo. I still live for Fridays. From the trading floor, we always went to happy hour on Fridays, everybody. We just all went out all the time, every Friday for sure. Not that we didn't go during the week, but let's take a look at where the markets are today. Rallying a little bit here. Looks like we're up about 20, 28. Looks like 28. Apple had earnings. They like what they hear. It's up $10. On my pitchfork here, yesterday, as you can see, Apple stopped at my median line. Now it's up here, up into the upper part of this third channel. I have resistance today in Apple above here at 250, 250.84. Totally makes sense, right? Now, when you're looking at your charts, always be sure, put these kinds of trend lines in. They help. If you bought right here on the close here, Apple breaking out over that trend line, the close is always more important than intraday. Bought here, you would have made some good money. And if you took the chance to stay in through earnings, you would have really done well. And what's interesting is the options priced in exactly a $10 move yesterday. If you price the straddle in Apple for today, it was right around $10, and they were right on those market maker liquidity providers. The MACD is positive, bullish on Apple. Let's look at levels here. SPX on its way to closing that gap, closing the gap created on Monday. Pretty cool to close a gap within the week, wouldn't it? The debacle of the tech debacle of Monday, DeepSeek, after Trump and those CEOs come out and say, we're going to spend $500 billion. And China comes up with DeepSeek and it spends $6 million. Kind of blindsided. The Americans were kind of blindsided by that. I just read this thing this morning, which I thought was interesting and I really hadn't thought of. American AI, they feed the AI all the data, and it's taken literally from American worldwide. It's not just American, but authors, YouTubers, any and all information out there is just taken and fed into the AI. And the person writing this article said how ironic or how hypocritical it is that now AI is complaining, American AI is complaining that China took their data, right? When they already did it to others. So it is kind of interesting, that twist in there I hadn't really thought about or realized. Actually, looking here, we almost have closed the gap. 61.20. I'm sorry, wait. This is the 60.88.74. 60.88.64. We closed that gap yesterday. 20 cents, we closed the gap. So our next level of resistance will be up here, 61.20, our previous high. According to the pitchfork here, we are 6,200 isn't that far. It really isn't. I think we'll get there. Probably by March. Q's also looking bullish. Nice little dip. Ready to close that gap. Looks like today they'll close the gap. And then there'll be resistance at 533. Q's still a little further than from their high than SPX. 538 is the previous high. Q's in a few weeks for 550, right? IWM's the lagger. Needs to get out of this consolidation. Needs to trade out of that consolidation. This could become a target though. Mid-Feb, 236. The dollar is trying to trade higher today. As you can see, just traded down to just above support. Nice doji, change in trend candle on the downtrend and trying to rally, which is very interesting because gold this morning is making new highs. Look at that. Look at the bullishness there in gold. Okay, I just added this. Let me hide it for confusion. Almost to the top of the pitchfork there. And I'm going to show you in NVIDIA just to show you how this works. Gold, 28.20, 28.21. Big rally in gold. Generally, the dollar and gold are negatively correlated. The dollar goes up, kind of stops gold's rally. Gold hasn't cared about that lately. Not at all. It is powerful, strong, bullish. I added a new pitchfork to show where it could go. And as you can see, it honored it along here, along here. It's not exact, but pretty good. Kind of stopped it there. So if it continues in this new pitchfork, gold's 28.60, in a couple weeks. Continues that high, or continues that bullishness, that strong bullishness. But yeah, gold looking higher. 20, it may take a pause at 28.20. Gold, what else did I want to look at? Gold and the dollar, the markets, NVIDIA. This will be our stock of the week this week or next week. Be sure to join us Mondays. Ticker Highlight Show's a free show at Option Pit, and it's right here on the VIP OP Live link, exactly where you are if you're not on YouTube. NVIDIA on its biggest sell-off of all stocks ever on Monday, was able to maintain and stay within my pitchfork. Now, if you read Profits and Pumps, I wrote about this possibly being a head and shoulders in NVIDIA, with the neckline being 129. Actually, I had it up at 132, but I lowered it. I lowered it to 129. And we can do that when we get more evidence, right? If you have a support resistance level that's, adjusted a little bit, it's okay. So if you have more evidence and it says that 129 is more true than 132, you move your line. You got to be fluid. So after this, it kind of negated the idea of a head and shoulders top. But what's interesting is to figure out the price target on a head and shoulders. You take the top less the neckline and then subtract that from the neckline. And that took NVIDIA right to like 214, 215. It's almost right there. So kind of sort of a wonky head and shoulders, but pretty much panned out. You did have a little warning here of some bearishness with that bearish engulfing right there on Friday. No one would have guessed that much though, but keep your eye on NVIDIA. As long as it holds this, 114 down here, and especially if it trades over 129, we get NVIDIA to close and trade over 129 a couple days. I'm thinking it comes back up to 160, 165 here. As you can see, I'm bullish most things. Overall, I am bullish the market. The thing that's holding us back are Trump's tariffs, right? Trump's tariffs, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Here's Bitcoin. Each time Bitcoin took that dip, it stayed and honored the pitchfork supports. And these two candles, this is a dragonfly doji, change in trend of this downtrend. Really strong, powerful change in trend. You have that, you dipped way down here and all those buyers just come flooding in and rallies it and closes up here. That's a really nice bullish. You got your confirmation and sure enough, you get a nice rally. Well, we had a little mini one here This is more like a hammer, but held the median line. And now we're rallying from there. Support is right around 103, 103.7. You revisit these highs in Bitcoin, 106.4, excuse me, 109.5. Above there, and 110.5. Looking bullish also. Most of my charts are looking bullish. Talking about the dollar, the Trump tariffs. When he talks about tariffs, you'll see and watch it strengthens our dollar. And the stronger dollar kind of puts a little damper on commodities and the stock market and all that. Not necessarily stops it. As we can see, we've had a giant, really good rally in the dollar as the market's been going higher too, and gold's been going higher. So that correlation's been kind of muted or broken a little bit at the time. And as we know, general rule of thumb, nothing is 100% in trading, right? We all know that. No strategy, no rule, nothing is ever 100% in trading. And we know that. Okay, before Andrew returns, I would like to tell you all about my Double My Money challenge. Double My Money challenge. I am going to take a $5,000 account and take it to $10,000 starting Monday and going through to August 3rd. And you're going to come with me. You're going to learn how to find opportunities on those charts that I show you all the time. Every week I show you my pitchforks. I'm going to teach you how to draw those on any chart, which aids you in finding price targets and aids you in finding trading opportunities, right? So for 3 weeks, I put on 13 trades. Here they all are. As you know, at Option Pit here, we are an open book. We always share our trading records, and we're true and honest, and we want you to know that. So here are my 13 trades. I made 757 on 13 trades. The average trade price was $284. I had 8 wins and 5 losses. Now, what I did realize, and I'm adjusting my risk parameters because we are starting with a $5,000 account. 2 of my trades here, I had 2 100% losses. We can't do that. You don't want to have that in a smaller account, right? You can't have any 100% losses. So I made 757 in the 3 weeks, which would make us, what did I say? It takes us to, 6,300, I think, on the 6 weeks. I just adjusted it last night. Sorry, you're going through. It takes us on par to over 65.60. There you go. If you can make 757 in 3 weeks on a weekly basis, we can make over $6,500 in 26 weeks. That's how I got that number. So that's really gives us some wiggle room to hit our 5,000 point, right, in 26 weeks by August 3rd. So generally, our options are right around $1. Occasionally a little more. If they're a little more, we trade less contracts. As I said, average entry price is $284. And we had some big wins. I had some big wins, 120%, 140%. It's awesome. In 6 months, you're going to learn how to work this strategy, become a competent, confident trader, and be able to do this on your own. So I would love for you to join me. Click the link and you can, actually don't click it now because we're in the same room. If you're on Option Pit's website, we'll be in this room at 1:30 Eastern. Hannah's going to make it today. She's feeling so much better. Thank goodness, because we all love to see Hannah. So join Hannah and me today at 1:30. And there's my pitch. Please join me. If anything, just come and join. And I'm actually going to give out a trade idea. So at the very least, you get a good trade idea just by joining us today.
The best thing about this is I don't have to do anything to get the actual ideas. I just wait for them.
Same for me. Same for me with your ideas, Andrew.
And Licia gets to do all the work for this one.
Well, Andrew, it isn't like we don't glom onto your ideas.
I know, but it's always good when we have a new thing come out and it looks really good. So it is fun to take a back seat. We do have 4 traders at Option Pit, so it's always good to take a back seat and see some cool stuff to do.
Good morning, Andrew.
Plus, you don't have many spaces left, right? I know this has gone pretty hot. So anyway. For people that are interested, you want to jump in relatively quick here, or it will be closed, right? Closed relatively.
No, the cap was for the discount.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I think that's probably gone then.
Well, I think we definitely hit over 50. I know they're talking about. You know what? That's the marketing team, Andrew. I just trade. I don't.
Yeah, I know. I have to get used to that part, right?
So, Hannah will let us know.
So here's the thing about NVIDIA that I'm curious of right now. I have to see where we are today. Is while you're looking at it, don't you think it's now? I know you have it's. I'm the same mode right now from the bullish mode right now.
Are you?
And because I saw a tweet. Musk is saying, okay, well, if we can knock off $4 billion a day in government spending, which apparently. There's a lot to go around so far. Amazing. And they're actually trying to do it as fast, I'm going to just say efficiently as possible. And it would be nice for Congress to get on board. But, if they take $1 trillion of spending out, that is going to help the inflation picture quite a bit. And at the same time, I think that adds some confidence to the stock market. So yesterday, I know you were showing about like SPX, like they talk about tariffs, the market slammed down, and now it's all the way recovering again.
Yeah. Well, and you're real quick just on those tariffs. So he attaches yesterday we dropped because that 25% on Mexico and Canada, right? Right. 25% sounds huge to me. But he attaches, do something about the fentanyl.
Yeah.
So maybe they show that they're going to, that we're going to implement these things to try to stop the flow. Then we don't have all this, right? Isn't his plan, I think?
I believe that's the plan because the reality is what you can see. And again, just observing governments across the world, they don't move very fast on trying to fix anything. No. To be quite honest,
unless it's lining their pockets.
Yes, and so he's like, okay, we're going to sit and talk about this for a year, or are you just going to do it now? So, as far as I can see, the market likes this. We are at all-time high. We just got a shock from NVIDIA, but yet. SPY was what, 590 something. We're already, we've already made a pretty big move back. So just looking at, reasons to be bullish, the government, a little less spending and a little more private investment in, whatever AI. Now, clearly 2 weeks ago, we had the big AI spend and everything went to the moon. Then all of a sudden, it looks like people didn't need to spend a lot. And NVIDIA, we always called the vampire that was eating all the money in the market.
Yeah.
And right now, it looks like money's, it's leaving NVIDIA at a very high multiple.
Still, right?
Right. Still high. Even if it's $100, it's still a $3 trillion company.
So maybe we needed it.
I think maybe just let's just see what other stocks there are in the universe.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's not a fantastic company that is wildly profitable. Does it deserve the multiple it gets? And then of course, we could talk about Apple as well. But I just think, at least from that point of view, I think it's healthy to have a little rotation out of these higher names. Apple is off a high, Microsoft off a high, Nvidia off a high, and SPX is 2 ticks away from an all-time high, I believe, right? We're 61. Where are we right now?
For which one? I'm sorry.
Like SPY right now, I think we're
Yeah.
not. If I'm just SPY SPX, but we're only 1.5 points from an all-time high in SPY SPX. So, with the market leaders not being close to their highs, I think that's, to be honest, I think that's bullish. I think that's healthy.
I agree, Andrew. I agree.
But anyway, that's where I am on on that. So I agree with you on that score. Like, there's reasons to be bullish when you're starting to see like things moving in the right direction. And listen, if AI is a little cheaper, I still can't make heads or tail of what's going on with DeepSeek. Like, who's funding it?
Actually, I just read this thing. Well, you're on X. How much is real? How much is true? And I have to say, those videos, there's a crazy video of Kamala Harris out there that's just so bad and looks so real. It's like, how are we going to know the difference?
Right.
Well, something ridiculous we know isn't, but honest. If something's really borderline, are we going to ever know? Anyway.
And people, leave your comments in the chat. Like, okay, I think the DeepSeek thing, it's PRC stunt, whatever. Like, what's the deal? Either way, it's something. And if you're an IT department, you're okay, can we do this for less? Do we have to spend $40 billion?
Right. And the American companies, if you're reading things, folks, they're getting blasted for being lazy and slow and not innovative, as DeepSeek has been.
Right.
But they are backed by a hedge fund, Andrew. And someone brought up that did their backers buy some puts in NVIDIA before they announced the news? And folks, as we all know, there's smart money out there. They get the news before they have the answers to the test. Let's say that's what we always used to say about Goldman. They have the answers to the test.
Yeah, because I did see, it's funny, I was going through some activity with one of my students last week in NVIDIA, and there was a lot of like power upside buying. And I was wondering if it was because sometimes you see for people, for people watching, you could see a lot of upside call buying activity. But what you don't see is that potentially a fund or, an entity can be selling stock against those calls.
Yeah.
Creating what we call a synthetic put and
taking a bet that it's going lower.
Right. And it's really a bet that it's going lower, even though they're buying a bunch of calls. So when you're looking at activity, like there's a certain kind of call that makes a good hedge against stock, and there are other calls that don't. So, but sometimes when you see a lot of ridiculous upside call buying that have no chance to be in the money, that's more of a margin control trade. So, if you buy 200,000 upside calls that are 15% out of the money or 20% out of the money, you really don't expect those calls to make money. However, it reduces the margin that you need for a short stock position by quite a bit.
Right.
It makes it so you can have a more size position. And if NVIDIA just happens to drop 25 or 30 bucks from the top, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You got a lot of calls left over for a couple $100 million credit. So I think that is a trade strategy. We used to see that all the time. And I don't think a whole lot has changed on that front. Speaking of, I have a little, I guess
Is it
it's,
time?
I think, well, not time for the trading vehicle yet. I'll have to
Oh,
go over my trading. My trade was not as good as yours. Let's put it that way from last
oh,
week.
I
So
forgot about our trades last week. I forgot that we were gonna. Okay, go
you
ahead.
had some, I put them on the list for you. You had
I
some good
had
ones.
all three winners. You do
Yes.
yours first.
Yeah, mine's no good. So I'm going to do VIX and SPY first, real fast, just from
Sure.
a realized vol point of view. So for all of you that are, if you're interested, right, like what does VIX do, right? So think about VIX as a 30-day at the money volatility for the S&P 500. And what it does is, let me get here. It at 15. So for VIX at around a 16, that's assuming about a 1% move close to close. Now, this is back of the envelope calculation, meaning approximately, but it's a pretty good approximation. So you're looking for SPX to move 1% a day. And right now, that 1% is over 60 points a day, SPX. And we know that the range, right, the top of Licia's wick to the bottom of the wick is usually more than just a close to close action. So a 16 VIX would mean the market is expecting, 70, 75, maybe 80 points a day realistically in SPX. That's a pretty solid range. Now, when I was trading SPX on the SIBO, like a million years ago, right? A big move was $6
Yeah.
because SPX was 600, right? We're like,
Yep.
oh, oh my God, we had a 10 handle move today.
Yeah.
I
I remember.
Now SPX moves in 10 handle ticks. So the relative, the relative move.
It's funny, we have to remember that too. Like when yesterday's big drop
Yep.
on the 5 minute, you're like, oh my God, what's happening? A fat finger, what came out? But then you really look at it and percentage wise, right? It's
Not very big. It's
yeah.
just enough for the algo I'll tell you what though, man, with all the electronic systems, liquidity disappears fast. I mean, when we were floor traders, the liquidity on stocks was kind of slow. Like, and then, put it this way. We still had guys that used to have to go pick up a phone and call to get a stock order done.
So true.
Literally call the NASDAQ and say, I need to sell 1,000 shares. You want a racket? That was a racket. Not from our end, but from the NASDAQ. Oh, I can't buy it right now. Click. Like
Well,
that's
actually, going back even further, when I was clerking, you had to call someone on the SIBO who called New York to put your stock order in.
So you can imagine things moved at a different pace back then.
That's
But
right.
but a lot of the, well, all the probabilities and everything is all the same. So, right now, if you look at my chart here, let me go
Well, let
maybe
me,
here. So,
Luis can switch to yours.
I think he has it now. He has
Oh,
it now.
oh, okay.
So
Sorry.
realized volatility, except for is very, very high, basically. I mean, we had that August 5th sell-off, and that was like the crazy one because essentially the market moved, what, 10% or so, or something like that in a week. 10% down, and then basically almost all the way back up in a month.
Yeah.
Or 2 weeks. So that realized vol 20-day average going backwards was 22. And right now we had peaked at around 18, which is very high. So, the market right now is priced expecting this kind of volatility to continue. And it's, the option prices are essentially covering this move. So the biggest surprise that would happen, in my view, is that realized volatility actually started to drop. So, how do you trade that? Well, you could, I'll talk about it in my trading vehicle, but that's how when sometimes you're trading, you're like, what's from a vol point of view, like what's the surprise? Like when vol's real low, nobody's like, oh, the market's going to go up forever. And then boom, you get the spike.
Yeah.
The least likely thing happens when you have a bull market is some crazy surprise, right? Like on December, this candle here, right? This, when we had this crazy down day, I don't even know what the reason was. We had inflation again or something. Everybody lost the plot. When, volatility up to then, right, was relatively low. So part of trading volatility is when realized vol is really high, it doesn't stay there forever. And when realized volatility is very low, meaning how much SPX is moving, it doesn't stay there forever either. So you're kind of always, you want to be like Gretzky. You want to skate to where the putt's going to be,
That's
not
right.
to where it is currently. But the price you see is still, you still have to trade what you see, meaning stocks are going up. Be careful about being short them, especially in this market, because I'm just going to say, like, you can make money being short, but you got to be pretty judicious. Certainly not long-term is not a win. So right now, and I think that's kind of what we have. The thing I think the market doesn't expect is to have realized volatility drop off. So we've had FOMC, right? They're not really going to do anything with rates.
Yep.
We just had most of
the big ones.
big tech earnings, right? Apple, you probably covered all that when I was a little busy at the beginning, but and Microsoft. So we have Google left and a couple others. So when you look at it, a lot of news is out. Inflation news is out. So if you're trying to make a catalyst case to see if realized vol can stay here, that's the thing. Can it really, are we going to keep gyrating around? And now that we kind of have this recovery from the tariff news, I think traders are going to be a little smarter now. When that Trump news hits, people are going to fade it pretty aggressively, I feel. Because they saw,
they're getting back in the groove. They're getting back in the groove of how he says stuff.
Yes, exactly.
I forgot.
He says all kinds of stuff, but what's the policy going to be, right? So, and it was a pretty good trade. And another thing I'm going to say, the lowest volatility in the last 10 years was his first term.
Oh, is that right? I didn't realize.
It's hard to believe. And I don't think we had volatility lower than that or at the same level. I was still a floor trader the last time I was that low. So 2006 or so, pre-financial crisis. Wow. Ancient history at this point. So it does happen. And also that's when, a lot of funds can get squeezed or they get over aggressive selling vol because it's just been working, right? When vol gets lower. So as of right now, though, we still have relatively high realized vol, and I think the surprise trade is lower. If you have comments or questions on that, or you think, you know what, Andrew, I think you're high, this market's going to zero, comment. You don't like Licia's idea that NVIDIA could run? Listen, by the way, everybody could change their mind next week, and all of a sudden, there isn't enough GPUs again, and NVIDIA is 145 or 150. So I'm only as happy with my thesis as it's right. And then after that, speaking of, where
are you taking us today, Andrew?
I'm going to take you to the land of VIX. First, I'm going to take you. Yes, first I'm going to take you to my vehicle from last week, which was okay. So WBA, this is when it's called allocation. So I'm never all in on any trade. I don't usually have more than 2% of my account in any one stock. That's just kind of the way it is for me.
It's a good rule.
It's the old trader in me. I just don't want one thing to just make me totally miserable.
Sure.
And now WBA cutting their dividend. So they had a great earnings. They're back to solid profitability. And now they're cutting the earnings. Now, is that probably the right thing to do for the company to try to restructure and everything? Most likely. But the market, I've never seen a market rally on a dividend cut. So I'm long this in one of my products, Flash 5. I'm not doing anything now. We'll probably go through repair strategy on it. But for right now, all I can say is, from an allocation point of view, I'm glad I'm not all in on it.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a small part. Now, I do have some wins that should cover what this is. So net, we're pretty balanced. But anyway, like when you're wrong, you're wrong. And right now, the dividend cut is a surprise for me and kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But it's what it is. So
Well,
even though they have had positive earnings for the last 6 months and revenue is positive, it's still not looking, they're still going to cut the dividend and try to restructure and, cut debt as much as possible and maybe get back to their brass tacks of, running pharmacies. So anyway, I
you
still
know
think
what
it's
I,
a good
you know
value
what
trade, but it's going to be a while.
what I always say to that, folks, and Andrew, when something happens like that, totally out of your control, it's a bummer, it's a drag, but the crazy part, it'll happen again in your trading career, right? That's the worst part because it can happen again.
Yeah. How many times do
These
you walk
things
out of the
happen.
floor, Licia, and you'd be like, oh my gosh.
Yep. Well, that's just part of trading, right?
Yes, it
If you
is
can
part of
just
trading. And
have,
so you do have to get used to it. And that's why you have allocation. And that's why actually the small account challenge from Licia, learning how to allocate per trade. Like
yep,
understanding how to do that is actually a process. Like on Twitter, being a YOLO, just buying some out of the money calls and having the stock go up a ton, it sounds great until you wipe out your account once. And then you're like,
yep,
that's not so great. So allocation it's fundamental if you want to trade or even be an investor. I mean, heck, even Warren Buffett owns 10 or 12 or 15 stocks or whatever, right?
yeah.
So if like 20 stocks is good for him, that's, I don't think that's a bad thing for me either. So anyway, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So from a VIX point of view, if you think realized volatility is going down, which again, this is an opinion, not actually what's happening. Although the candles have gotten a little closer this week. I'm going to say VIX is probably 15 or 14 in a couple of weeks. So we have 2.5 weeks left in the cycle. And I just thought, my trading vehicle this week is picking up some cheap puts. I'm already long 16 puts, 17 puts, and 18 puts in VIX right now. And again, because of the market has been so active, it's going to take longer, even if you see VIX drop, for the VIX futures to drop with it. So it's not a overnight trade.
Okay.
And that's where we are. So that's my trading vehicle for today. And actually, we got a request.
Oh,
We have a pitchfork request for CrowdStrike. So Lewis, if you can go back to Licia.
sure.
Thank you, DT.
Real quick, back to my pitchforks. Andrew talked about that dip in August. Look at right to the support of the pitchfork. I love when that happens.
We do.
You have guidance. It gives you guidance. Where could this drop stop, right? And then you see you wait and get your confirmation the next day and you hop in and you ride it higher. And also I would like to point out how my pitchfork on SPX has honored the top of it. How many times? 3-4 times. Okay, CrowdStrike. Just as you were talking about that, Andrew, I had to look it up, and there, sure enough, it was right there. CrowdStrike, I have a really big, wide pitchfork, but then I created a smaller, tighter one. Yeah, that just starts at January 13th. I have this old high is now new support. It was resistance. It's now new support. So put that in there, 389.60. And that's what's stopping you right now. Coincides pretty well with the median line. This is bull flagging. I would stay long until a close below 89.60. Looks like you could be hitting 420, 400, right?
I wonder if cheaper AI is going to help all these security companies. Of course, if you're using Chinese PRC AI for your security, I don't know. There's something that I don't know exactly how that works, but But so you're looking for, is that bouncing off that line, your red line?
Yes, I would say that's your line in the sand to bail if you're long.
Okay.
Your stop loss area. It is a big area, but I'd say this is bull flagging, and you're going to revisit 408 and possibly 420.
Okay.
Real quick, 3 stocks we talked about last week. Merck, slowly, but it's going higher
That's
since
one.
last Friday. Silver, we got a nice pop yesterday that ended up higher. And Portillo's still looking good. I still like this. I think you do too, right, Andrew?
Yes, I have a position that matters at this point. So yes, I want this to.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a $20 stock again once everybody realizes that it's a.
How delicious those beef sandwiches are.
Yeah.
You can see here a nice rounding bottom, Andrew. So
I like it.
23.
I like round
That's
bottoms.
23. Who doesn't, right?
Who doesn't?
We don't want a flat bottom. We want a round bottom.
No, we don't want that. I guess on that segue, I guess where's Mark when we need him to really take that and run into a direction just to make everybody hide under their desk. But I think so. What do you think today, Licia? Today and for the week?
Well, we're already up, right?
Yeah, I think so.
We're up 30.
It looks like it. We were up 30, now only 20. I wonder if some more news hit, but
oh, we had PC, I believe. We had one of the numbers.
Right.
I say I'm bullish. I say we're going higher. My near term 60-27. Watch that area. If we dip below there today, maybe grab some puts into the close. I'm bullish. I think we're going higher. We're gonna 61.20. We can test 61.20 today. I don't see why not.
Okay. I wouldn't surprise me at all. So again, Apple, it's easy for the market to go up when Apple's going up. Nvidia is not crashing today. So again, I think the narrative will be, rally. So it would not surprise me to see SPY like 608, 609, something like that. So, because mostly all my products I trade SPY. So that's what I keep an eye on.
Yeah.
And probably at this rate, by midday, if everybody's got the happies, you'll see maybe VIX in the 14 handle, 14.95. So get the weekend out of the options. It could happen.
I believe it will.
All right. Well, I'm back in here, but let thank you, Queen of the Candles, for taking over. Go on over to optionpit.com.
Be sure to join us today at 1:30.
Yep, 1:30 today. You got to jump in while you got the chance. And for me, Andrew Giovinazzi, Director of Education, optionpit.com, your other option. We are out. Have a good day.
Thanks, folks.
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.